Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I think we're ready to start. Sounds like everybody wants AI for breakfast. I love this. Let's put a little in your coffee. I mean, if you like AI, just kidding. If you take AI in your coffee. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jamie Henthorn. I am the Director of Innovation. I'm the Director of Academic Innovation Programs at the University of Colorado System. And today I'm creating a space for picture a Venn diagram. You've got a circle. One is AI and one is OER. And of course, there's that nice little sliver between the two. So let's say AI is blue and OER is yellow. So we're in the green space, just for a little more context, a little more visualization. So we're going to try very hard not to wander away from that space and start talking generally about either, but that's the space for the next 40 minutes. And today, this is a snapshot. So I'm sharing a snapshot with you of 3 individuals that I learn a lot from all the time and wanted to bring them together so that they could share with each other and with you about their thoughts and practices around OER and AI. I'll also share a disclaimer that we are not here to provide advice or encourage you to do anything in particular in relation to AI. We will be talking freely to each other about AI in front of you, and you can take away what you like from that. And with that, I'm going to introduce the panelists. So here to my left is Dr. Ronica Rooks. Ronica is an associate professor in the Department of Health and Behavioral Sciences at the University of Colorado, Denver, where she is also the director of online education for the College of Letters of Arts and Sciences. And then up here at the top, well, you can see the 2 live people there are our other panelists. And so we have Katerina Azzarello. Katerina is on the precipice of receiving her PhD. She's ABD in educational psychology at the University of Northern Colorado, where she also earned her master's. And just below her is the notorious Sherry Jones. Sherry Jones is in Utah currently. That's why she's not with us. And Katerina, I'm going to divulge that Katerina is in late stages of pregnancy and had a little scare with COVID this week and has been advised to stay home. So we have both coming in from remote locations. And in Utah, Sherry is now with Western Governors University, where she is an experienced strategist for the AI Futures program. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to jump right in. We have 4 questions prepared. Everybody's looked at the questions, thought about the questions. I'm also encouraging candid shares and exchanges among them. So this won't be pitch, 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 pitch kind of thing. So there'll be some dialogue and also some prepared information. And so the first prompt that I had for everybody is to consider AI as an accelerator of OER. So Ronica, you found that AI can help reduce the time and effort needed for faculty to create and adapt OER materials, especially ancillary resources. And Sherry, your work has emphasized AI strengths and limits in content generation. And Katerina, you've noted the confusion between low cost, free, and true OER in course design. That is all to ask my question. How can AI best be used to make OER generation more feasible for busy faculty while ensuring that what's created is both high quality and truly open?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to jump in. So with AI, AI can allow us to generate different forms of OER now. So most folks might not know that you can actually create diagrams, tables, spreadsheets, podcasts, videos, 3D environments, games, apps using AI. And traditionally, we would use different software to create those mediums, but now we can actually use AI to do that. So that is actually a time-saving strategy. and to ensure that the OER generated is actually of high quality because AI is known to hallucinate sometimes. Instructors can actually generate or create their own guidelines for evaluating OER quality. And they also can, and I know this is kind of counterintuitive, but you can also use AI to generate a rubric, teaching it the columns and rows, or co-create that rubric with students as part of the open pedagogy practice. So when students are also invited to co-create content with their instructor for their education, they have a greater stake in their own educational success.
Thanks, Jerry. Ronica?
Hi, everyone. So I tell my students to, oh, sorry. I tell my students to make sure that they edit AI bots output and don't just accept AI bots output as fact. And there's just plenty of errors. I mean, for example, when I use Gamma AI to create slides for class, usually I'm fully disclosing to students to tell them, hey, it's made some phantom words that appear and disappear every time that I import it into PowerPoint. I'm not sure why, but I'm fully disclosing to you that that's what I've used and we can talk through it, just in terms of making edits or letting them know that I've used AI as well. For some things. And so another thing that I've also learned from the example of using Gamma for slides, as well as when I've been a faculty member and had to present on AI to students and faculty to figure out like what are its benefits and the negatives involved with using AI in the classroom and for research. And so I recently had to put together a slide presentation, again, Gamma presenting to the faculty and students and expressing these things about Gamma slide problems. But on top of that, someone asked me, what can AI not do in terms of creating products and things like that? And I said, you know what? From the example of the Gamma slides, I asked it to put together what are some of the negatives and positives of AI in higher education. And its list of things, included stuff like environmental issues, positive summarizing things, negative environmental issues. But my number one thing was the time saving, and it didn't list it. So I said, okay, what I've learned is that AI has different priorities than me. That's where we continue to keep the human in the loop with the work that we're doing. Like I make sure that I tell it my priorities of what I want to see in the output that I'm producing. So that's really important. It dawned on me that I have to make sure that if I'm creating rubrics that I'm putting in express specifications of here are my priorities of what's important to me, not just give it random, like create this rubric based on this document. It's like I'm giving it specifics in my prompt writing. And then the last thing I wanted to express was that I felt like learning these things as I've used AI, I thought this would make a great OER infographic about the pros and cons of AI use for teaching and learning for faculty and students. Just something quickly to be able to say in classroom, if you're going to use this for materials that we're producing to make sure, hey, go through the infographic, think about some things.
Thanks, Veronica. I appreciate it. Katarina, do you have something to share on this topic?
Yeah, so I was just thinking while everyone was speaking that AI really is a great time-saving tool, but it just has to be used in an appropriate manner. And so faculty and students like me and graduate students engaging in different AI workshops and continuing to learn more about AI, so there's like less confusion around how to use AI with OER and how to understand how to copyright yourself and make sure that your materials are actually open access, because you can make a whole course and then if no one has any access to your course besides your students, you're not really creating an OER for other educators to use. So continuing to connect with those like different resources, which there's so much now. There's so many different AI resources and so many different OER resources and so many resources that bridge that gap. Um, so I mean, taking that little bit of time in the beginning to kind of familiarize with yourself with everything is going to have like such a huge payout in the end.
Thanks, Katarina. That's really helpful framing. I think that brings the question around nicely. And next, I want to turn to, I don't have the slides up because they're just the questions. So I'm going to pause here for a second to explain that I do have the questions and everybody's bios, just a simple outline as the resources for everybody afterwards. But I'll just, so you can see everybody, I won't put the slides up. The second question centers on accuracy, bias, and trustworthiness. So Sherry, you've raised major concerns about AI hallucinations, misinformation, and even model collapse, especially when educators aren't equipped or perhaps willing to critically engage with AI-generated content. And Ronica, you've given your students freedom to use AI, even in assessments, while still emphasizing critical reflection. And Katerina, you warned about students and educators treating AI outputs as resources without a full understanding of what that means. This leads me to the question, what strategies can make AI a trustworthy partner in OER creation and use, especially in avoiding bias and ensuring accuracy? And Katerina, let's start with you.
Yeah, so part of my role is as a graduate student is as a teacher. And so when I also allow my students to use AI, but there has to be disclosure and understanding around it. So they can't just like type their assignment into ChatGPT and give me a feedback and be like, hey, I did it. But with that, both students and educators, there's still a lot of confusion around how AI fits in with OER. There's people who are just like, I'm not even going there and looking at it. And then there's people who kind of just think, oh, if I prompt something on ChatGPT, I'm good to go. Like it's good. And they don't think about hallucinations. And so remembering that we're the experts of our topics is very important. So, and collaborating with other experts on the topic. So when you're doing OER creation, I'm a big fan of collaboration if possible, even if you're working with your librarian or a grad student or a really interested student. But having someone check your kind of check the AI, check your reflection of the work, and kind of work together collaboratively is going to create the best OER possible. Even and in that collaboration, AI is included in that collaboration. And so again, like I'll go back to like professional development and free webinars and go into things like this because all of this is going to give us those tools to create better and better OER quicker and use the resources more ethically and better.
Thank you, Katerina. Sherry?
So I'll preface this by reiterating that I trained AI models in the background. I work for Google, so I have extensive in-depth knowledge of actually what's happening with AI training. And now I'm at Western Governors University. So here's my insights from that, right? So first of all AI models, and it doesn't matter if it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Mistral, whatever model you're thinking of, they're trained on the web corpora. So web corpora refers to the entire internet. We date market, so we take the entire internet, date market by certain dates and months. This is why there's a time limitation on the data we feed to the model. And as you can imagine, the internet is full of misinformation, disinformation, contradictory opinions, and time-relevant facts, right? So this is actually why AI models provide biased, hallucinated information because it's fed the entire internet. The entire internet is full of human bias. That's actually what's happening. So that's one layer to consider, okay? Another problem with foundation models. Some of them are called frontier models. So you'll hear the term frontier foundation models, okay? Another problem that really come to the forefront since Anthropic, that's responsible for making Claude, came forward and announced this, right? That LLMs, no matter which one you're talking about on the market, are very much opening to data poisoning. So data poisoning is a malicious and deliberate insertion of biased example into models' training data, causing the model to learn incorrect patterns and output useless responses. So what we mean by that is someone is uploading data sets on the internet that contains false information or instructions that confuses the model. And I just explained that the entire internet is the training data for the model. So we just state market, take the entire internet and feed it to the model. And once you put that data into the model, you can't take it out. That's a major problem. And also, because we know that the entire internet is fed to the model, copyright owners are not asked permission, right? When tech companies are taking this data, so we have activists fighting back, right, with those uploading those false data sets. Also, we have University of Chicago's Nightshade tool. So that is a tool that's been released to artists so that they can inject poison data into their images so that the model can't steal the image so that it outputs the wrong kind. I mean, we don't have time to go over exactly how that works, but there are activists trying to confuse LMs, and Anthropic sound the alarm last week and said, we got a problem. All the LLMs can break down because of this, right? However, what is good for our community is that educators can use this moment to create these collaborative learning projects to evaluate AI model responses based on specific domain knowledge, right? So you can actually get students to collaborate and look at responses or information or images generated by the model based on this particular domain. They can develop critiques and nuanced truth that's missing from AI journalist response. So what that means is that AI responses are promoting a capital T truth. So one truth, right? Or specifically what the tech companies, without naming everyone, what they're promoting as the truth. So as person training on the back end, I see all of it, and it's very problematic. So this is a moment to get students to collaborate and say, let's generate OER material, but also let's evaluate that material for misinformation and disinformation. And lastly, students can also publish open access post-mortem, right, of their projects. So if they don't want to share their entire project, instructor can encourage them to say, after you did this, can you write a post-mortem reflection of your experience generating things and evaluating the content from the model? What were their strengths? What were the weaknesses? That actually promotes further OER generation and open education.
Thanks so much, Sherry. Ronica?
To follow from everything that they said, I would say mine is very practical in thinking about, I teach undergraduate public health, and this is in reference to a social determinants of health course where I implemented a new assignment. So the assignment was in reference to digital literacy targeting older adults, and how does that relate to social determinants and contextual factors that impact their health. And so it was a new assignment. I made sure that students were interested in creating flyers, infographics, like a 1 to 2 page flyer to help out older adults. And so a lot of them chose things like explaining AI bots, grocery store apps, pharmacy apps, things like that. And so I asked students to make sure that the text was simplified, so they often use AI to help with making sure it was more simplified text, easier instructions, sometimes graphics as well. Oh, wow. Also to help generate ideas in terms of how to explain to older adults the relationship of digital literacy and knowledge enhanced with an impact on their health. And so then I felt like it was important. So the first thing, student teams, to address the question of how do we ensure quality material for OER? Student teams, group works, one strategy. Second strategy, I tried to remind students that they should use a closed AI bot for their privacy, protection, data security, something that's been approved through the university. It may not be the greatest, but it's the bot that protects their information, because I also got to the point of trying to let them know that, hey, I wouldn't put my work into that's unpublished to AI bots. It's my intellectual property. This is your intellectual property. I don't want that to be snagged by someone else for free and used without their knowledge as well. So that's the second strategy, to make sure I'm giving them the spiel about this is your intellectual property, protect it. And then the next step, I think, is really to improve the quality of the assignment for OER development before giving it to the community that we had in mind. I had more of a assisted living facility for older adults to kind of give that material to them. And so prior to giving it to them, my colleague Sherry suggested to me, hey, we should do peer review amongst all of the students to look for that disinformation, misinformation, quality check on the materials before handing it to the community and before putting it into a repository.
Thanks, Veronica. I appreciate that example. Third question. So this question centers on the future role of educators. So all of you from different angles have pointed out that educators remain essential as domain experts and referees of knowledge. Yet AI tools increasingly insert themselves into teaching and content development practices. My question is, how do you see the role of educators shifting in the next 5 years as AI becomes more deeply integrated into OER creation and learning design? And Veronica, I'll hand it back over to you.
Okay, try to eat the mic here again. Keep it close. Okay, so I feel like, full disclosure, I'm currently on, or have been in the last couple of years, on our college's AI committee, the university's AI committee, the system level AI committee. So all of these committees, and doing this work, and it feels like over the next 5 years, we're definitely going to have more people to uptake with AI literacy training and workshops, maybe community of practice, focusing initially on what AI can do, what it can't do, what we can do that AI can't do, AI ethics and AI use for teaching, research, administrative workflows. I don't also think that it's going to be acceptable in the last couple years that we've worked on syllabus guidelines where faculty can opt out and say, no, I'm not going to have AI use in my courses or anything like that. To the gamut of things, no AI use to integrate it to their teaching about it, and fully green light to use it all the time in coursework. So I've erred on the side of, sort of telling students that they can use it in the coursework, except for midterm exams. But again, like others have said, they need to document how they've integrated it, how they've updated it based on their own learning and course objectives, and then discuss that in terms of the assignment as well, like write and document that. And so so I feel like it's not going to be acceptable over the next 5 years to say, no, I don't want any AI used in my coursework. And I know this borders on academic freedom with faculty, but it seems like we can't deny students in the job market where this is such a needed skill that they're going to have that to use to get the jobs. And so that's part of my thinking. And then something else that I thought would be helpful is the Colorado Department of Higher Education has showcased over the next year a series of webinars for AI and OER. And so they're freely available for professional development, and they're offering certificates as well for the training. So that's something to look into. And then I think as my next point is that we as teachers will need to increasingly demonstrate our usefulness beyond what an AI chatbot can do. And like taking time to identify these things, incorporating them into our learning goals, assignments with disciplinary goals, I think that's necessary. And this might mean thinking about student assignments that are applied to real world issues, problem-based learning, maybe even tailored to students' interests or career paths. Like we've already said, collaborative work, scaffolded work, iterative work, meaning you don't just turn in one assignment. This is going to be something that you turn in over time and you keep improving, even as you're using AI and you're working with other people. And then again, peer reviewed for producing higher quality OER.
Veronica, thank you for such a thoughtful response. Thank you. Katerina, do you have something to add?
Yeah, so as a student, I can't imagine, well, as a graduate student, let me clarify. So, an undergraduate student, I wouldn't say this, but as a graduate student, I couldn't imagine not using AI. It's kind of like my assistant right now and helps a lot with those like mundane, smaller tasks that take up a lot of grad student time. Um, I know as I graduate and move into the workforce, my AI skills and training are super valuable. And so that's why I've decided as a teacher in that role to integrate AI in small ways, but just a little bit like in an assignment where they have to like go on ChatGPT, ask it a question, and then think about that response and reflect against it and see, compare your response to the AI's response, or how would you respond differently? Like just having students think about it, because some students really aren't using it yet and are like, no, thank you. I don't like that stuff. That's robots. They're taking over the world. And some teachers are like that too. So I do see over the next 5 years a definite increase. I have to agree with Veronica there. Like there's going to be more use of AI. They're going to integrate it more into learning management platforms. My university has already integrated AI into learning management and wants us to do all these different AI tasks. And it's been what, like maybe a year, 2 years of really heavy, like use and kind of more trust of use of AI and sophistication. So it's only going to become more integrated and a part of our lives. But at the same time, there's always going to be those professors that are like, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that. And I'm teaching my textbook and I'll do that till I retire. And that's it. So, um, yeah, I'm excited to see how we work with it and how the limitations are going to come because I know with something new there's always going to be restrictions and stuff like that implemented. So I'm really curious how the future's going to look with AI.
Wonderful, Katerina. Thank you. And Sherry?
And yes, and adding on to what everyone has said already, my perspective is going to be slightly different because my current job, I'm no longer an instructor. My job is to actually develop technology that's 10 years ahead, which is that it doesn't exist anywhere on the market using AI and robotics. Okay. So my perspective is going to be slightly different here. So there are indicators everywhere that the future of work will be will require human AI hybrids. So there's another term for this, right? So human amplification, which means that skilled workers will be using AI to create and amplify their work. If you don't use AI to amplify your work, workplaces tend to say you're slow, and they want you to speed up. So AI actually is amplifying, but also speeding up the process of developing everything. It's happening everywhere right now, and the future of work is pretty much on this target. Also, because we have ease of information, right, across domains, right? So anybody can access anything using AI now. Future workers will also be expected to be interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary thinkers. So it's no longer good enough to be an expert in one domain because AI kind of took that away from us, okay? So in the future, everyone needs to be interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, which is what I'm actually performing at my job right now. And that is actually how you tackle problems with these particular knowledge domains. So I believe that the role of educators in the next 5 years, again, will be that interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, but also they will be those AI literacy guides and evaluators because they are the one who understand what is correct or not correct. And AI will always, can't go into detail, but AI will always hallucinate. large language models might not be our endpoint. There's lots of indicators that we're switching to something like a general world model, which is using situated learning, which we can't talk about too much right now. But LM, as it's in its limitation, will require human beings to evaluate their accuracy. They will always hallucinate. So with this, because educators will be performing this task of AI literacy guides and evaluators, they can also help students generate more, right? OERs, AI generated OERs, to help students understand bias, accuracy, and quality assurance. Because the truth is, that's what you're actually doing at work right now. This is what companies are expecting people to do at this moment. So students actually need to be prepared for this because they can't just go into work not knowing AI and not understanding the skills of checking for bias. This is a super important skill. And also, educators must be comfortable with researching and working with AI generated content beyond their domain expertise as we go back to that multidisciplinary thinking, because that is the future, is that human AI hybrid work is where everything is landing right now.
Yeah, light content, everybody, light content. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you. You give us insights that I don't have access to otherwise. So I'm hugely grateful. I'm actually going to keep you in the hot seat and move on to our last question, which is talks about building communities of practice. And I'll just go straight for the question, which is, what would an effective AI and OER community of practice look like? And what should its priorities be to ensure responsible, impactful use of AI in open education? Sherry?
Okay, coming back. So OER, what we're thinking about OER generation is becoming easier because we can use AI to generate it. But we also have to think about, as a community of practice, how AI capability as they increase, different forms of OERs can be generated as well, right? Because it will affect the form that will be generated. So an example I offer is that a lot of big tech companies, right? And I'm talking about the FANGs, FAANG, FANG companies are starting to append metadata to indicate if something is AI generated. So if you're using ChatGPT and you ask it to generate citations for you, the citation will actually show you if it's ChatGPT generated, folks. So you can actually see the metadata if you know how to prompt it to generate citation for everything it generates. That's a tip there. So if metadata is appended to everything, imagine that metadata is appended to like images, audio, video, apps, 3D objects, 3D worlds, holograms, because that's going to happen. Portable neural network. So portable as in you can have a little brain living on your computer, AI agents, other possible AI generated assets with metadata. So with the increase of this AI generation capability and provenance tracing who generated, whether it's human generated or AI generated, right? OER can actually flourish in other mediums. So it's not the end, it's actually a proliferation of OERs, right? But we still, as a community of practice, be the guardians. And I want to say this, I want to emphasize this. Human beings are very, very important to this equation. Don't let the media get you sidetracked, okay? Human beings are very important to ensure information is accurate. Really quick tip, last May of 2024. No, May of 2025. I apologize. May of 2025, we discovered that 59% of the internet is AI generated already, folks. That was May of 2025. I mean, we're getting to probably 70% category right now. Okay. So there's a lot of AI generated stuff. There's a lot of false information, and educators have this task ahead of them to help students distinguish what's real and what's not. And also, as community of practice, we also need to keep track of local, state, federal, and international regulations on AI ethics and governance, because that actually tells us how we should use AI and what we should do. What are our responsibilities, right, when we are using AI to generate information? Other particular laws that are very important to this conversation: the EU AI Act, GDPR, NIST are sites, websites that you should be staring at to understand what are some regulations, what are considerations that educators should be considering as well. And I also want to give a shout out because I used to work with UNESCO. So UNESCO has a very healthy AI division that provide lots of research that help educators understand how to prompt engineer, okay? What are some considerations, how to teach students to deal with all these AI generated content. So that's going to be part of our practice in the future.
Thanks, Sherry. I'm going to turn it over to Veronica for faculty perspective.
Okay, so feels like I'm going to replicate some of the things that Sherry said, but wow, that's intense. So, okay, so as a person who has already done a community of practice for OER, the things that are more traditional OER community of practice would include are topics that engage faculty on understanding the benefits of OER for students in the classroom, identifying places for OER resources to incorporate into your course, find and evaluate OER, using open pedagogy concepts in your teaching, understanding Creative Commons licenses, the 5 Rs, adapting, remixing OER, and then even scaling up and sustaining OER and seeking out funding and things like that we've been fortunate in Colorado to have state grants to help us. And then even asking guest speakers to showcase case examples that was really helpful for faculty in the previous community of practice that I've run. But now with AI and OER, I would say as a community of practice, I would definitely add in the AI literacy with including prompt engineering and ethics, governance and structure, even privacy and security, as I had mentioned earlier, open discussion about the benefits and costs or negative impacts of AI for teaching, research, or administrative workflows. I don't think that's showcased enough. When I've been to different workshops, most of them just prompt up the sort of positives and not necessarily negatives. And I definitely like giving people a balanced perspective. If you're going to get into using this, you need to know positives and negative. And then also in thinking about step-by-step guide examples for creating OER textbooks or materials with using AI. So I think that would be helpful for faculty.
I do too. Thanks. And Katerina, can you bring us home, please, with a perspective from both your student hat? You can wear both your student hat and your instructor hat.
Yeah, so I've engaged in a lot of AI and OER communities. Luckily, Colorado offers a lot in the OER sphere. So I've been lucky to engage a lot with different communities through the state and through my university. And I would say the most effective like groups that I've been in are open and honest about their experiences, whether that's like my university doesn't like OER and I can't do anything, and or whether they're like my university just gave me $5,000 to transition my course. Woohoo. You know, like hearing those different perspectives, collaborating, especially I love how Sherry had mentioned interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary work. That is, I do a lot of work with that right now. And working within those teams, we've been able to create some amazing OER because we're all coming from different perspectives and understandings and lenses. And then I've learned so much about different areas of STEM that I would have never thought about, like geology. I'm an ed psychologist. So like those communities of practice are so important. And just making sure that they're, you know, open and collaborative and respectful of each other. I've found that they create the most productive and best OER possible. So working together, teamwork is so important in the OER space.
I'm trying to do lots of things at once. I'm trying to share with you the slides and not my email. But I don't know why. Let's try again. One moment, please. This will give you everybody's email addresses because we didn't make it to Q&A. So this is the moment where I thank you all for being here. We're at time. Thank you to our panel. Round of applause. Email people As you wish. Sorry, no Q&A. Ronica and I are here, and these others, as I said, there are email addresses, so reach out. Sherry and Katerina, be prepared. I've shared your email addresses. Thank you all.